everybody. Thanks for watching Access Hockey MI. As always, we appreciate that you watch our videos and that you take time out of your life to do so. Today we're going to talk about more of Red Wings rebuilding. So as you know, if you're a Red Wings fan, we are in the process of rebuilding, and we have been for at least 4 seasons. Coming from a couple seasons where we have not done super great. We've missed the playoffs. We are trying really hard to get the prospect pool in line, the draft pool in line, while also having a team on ice that can compete for the Stanley Cup. And by compete, I mean not last place.
So we don't ask for
that. That would be ideal. But Steve Yzerman and the Red Wings have recently re-signed 3 guys to either the AHL Grand Rapids Griffins or the NHL Detroit Red Wings, of course. So we're going to talk about those signings today and what they mean for the team and kind of what Yzerman has said that he's doing with these signings and what the purpose is. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yzerman knows things, so we're just going to...
He does.
He's just a smart dude.
Trust him, and we're saying that to ourselves, too.
Yeah, exactly.
We trust him.
Watching these playoffs, I start getting really concerned for our future.
These have been great playoffs,
fantastic,
right?
Fantastic.
So nice.
Anyway, so this all happened this last week. Turner Elson was re-signed for 1 year. He has spent all of his time with the AHL's Grand Rapids Griffins. His entire career has been in... Well,
that's kind of confusing. What she means is as long as he's been with the organization,
he's been with
Griffins.
I'm so sorry. Yes.
We don't want to mislead you.
So anyway, this last season in 61 games played, he had 22 points. He was on track to match or beat his previous season.
He's consistent, I would say.
He is very consistent. He's one of the best skaters. He's a gritty guy.
He's a hard skater.
I've often thought he played like McCarty.
Very hard worker, scrappy as all get out like McCarty.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a whole lot of pretty going on.
Yeah.
Very effective.
That's okay.
But he was re-signed for 1 season. He's 28 years old, so he's kind of getting to that older spectrum. But in Grand Rapids, they do need that veteran leadership. We have quite a few free agents right now, restricted and unrestricted, that there's still question marks around.
Right.
And he brings a bit of that veteran leadership in there. At the NHL level, the Red Wings have been kind of progressively showing what their hand is going to be this coming season by signing Sam Gagner, who we acquired late last season. And he's 31 years old. He's a center winger-ish kind of guy. He's one
versatile is what professionals would say.
I just say ish. It just covers everything. But they're bringing him back for 1 more season to figure out, what that line is going to look like. I think he's he was like a second or third liner.
And power play too.
Yeah.
So in 6 games played, he had 1 point, and I can talk about the next one.
Oh yeah.
So center winger for Sam Gagner, and then the newest acquisition would be Marc Staal, and we got him from the New York Rangers, and he's a defenseman.
Kind of the biggest one.
And so that means Yzerman has said that we're not getting Eriksson or Daly back, and we're choosing not to get him back. I wouldn't say we're not, like, just because they were taken, but
it's like a breakup except mutual.
Yeah, right. So maybe mutual. Who knows? But in 52 games played with the Rangers, Staal had 11 points. So he's a bigger guy. He's 6'4", 200 and some pounds. So he's going to fill a hole. Yzerman said he's going to fill a hole in the defense that we have. And we've got holes all along the roster, of course. But I do think they've been created by, of course, getting rid of heavy contracts, getting rid of weights that have kept us down a little bit. So I don't think they're holes that are unintentional, because also we've got a lot of prospects coming up in the pool. And I know that Steve Yzerman looks to use the prospects and, of course, the development. But it's also important to note that all of these guys were signed for very short term, because Steve Yzerman seems to believe that he doesn't want to put a lot of weight and a lot of money and a lot of
just years.
Years into the veteran, as far as like into new veteran leadership, because we do have so many prospects, and the whole goal of prospects and drafting is to get them to play NHL level, to have this great. Like, that's why you draft.
And you can't do that if you're strapped to an 8-year contract of a guy not moving anywhere.
Correct. So most of the time Yzerman is re-signing veteran leadership, it's going to be a short amount of time.
Right, exactly. And all of these, like Janae said, being that they're only 1 season, it goes to show just how pliable Yzerman is wanting to be, and how open to using the prospects he is, which is a very encouraging sign for Detroit, because that just shows how much effort he's putting into the development. We've touched on that in previous videos too, but it has been said that he's not going to go for those super long contracts, and as long as we're still in that rebuild phase, you're not going to see 5, 6, 7-year contracts.
Because what's the purpose? If you're going to have those guys taking up a lot of roster space, a lot of salary cap space, you're not going to have a lot of room for your prospects that are ready to come up, so you don't want to bog down your roster.
Right, and we've had that too much in the past before, and I think that's what he's trying to get away from. So that being said, I mean, that kind of wraps up what his purpose in direction to all this is we're trying to create at least a semi-competitive NHL club while still focusing on development.
Yeah.
With the Staal acquisition, we also got a 2021 second-round pick off of that.
Yes.
And that's something, too, that Yzerman in the last couple seasons has been really acquiring those picks. And Kenny Holland did a good job with that, too.
For sure.
Prior to stepping down and moving on. But we've had a very good chunk of picks. This year we have 10 or 11. Next year we have 10.
That's
and
huge.
that gives us, like in Yzerman's word, it gives us a little bit more assets to play with teams when we're negotiating for these trades.
Yeah.
Teams that just can't handle who they've got to unload. We've got pieces that we can trade instead.
Yeah, and he said, of course you don't want to trade picks because those are great guys that you might be passing up, but at the same time they are a good conversation piece with other teams if they do have, like Rachel said, heavy contracts that their cap space can't hit, which a lot of the upper teams are at their cap space.
Yeah.
That's just how they are operating.
You could say we're in a better position.
I think that we've worked with what we've had. Like we were kind of Yzerman was dealt a hand of.
It was less than ideal.
Well, less than ideal, but at the same time, a former general manager who put a lot of weight into getting draft picks, which is great. And that does, like Rachel said, give us a lot of wiggle room in as far as we can negotiate for getting
even having
other
them
guys.
As conditional. So then,
for sure.
Yeah, and that kind of, and you'll see that a lot too on draft day. That'll happen a lot.
Yeah, because that can trade on draft day. And that's always a surprise to us when they're like traded their pick to so and so for this guy, and you're like, holy cow!
They did it in 30 seconds.
I was gonna say that happened with PK Subban when he got traded to the New Jersey Devils on draft day, and we were like, what in the world?
Freaked everybody out.
When you have that kind of stuff to play with, it's not ideal, of course, to draft or to trade your draft picks, but sometimes it's a really good ticket to get.
You can catch a team when they're most
because they got PK Subban.
Exactly.
Incredible.
What do you think the Staal signing means for the defensive rebuild?
Well, I mean, right now they've got because they're losing Erickson and Daly, who and we were thinking before that Marc Staal is going to add a little bit more grit than Erickson and Daly did. Daly, I think, was a little patchy as far as his health went and as far as injury went. And Erickson, I don't know. He's lost a lot of his he's kind of lackluster for me.
Yeah.
And I think that Marc Staal coming on is going to be a good veteran way to be with Gustav Lindstrom and Mort Seider and helping them learn and I love that both the Griffins and the Red Wings have so much importance placed in veteran leadership because it is so important to have guys who have been there and done that on your team when you're facing a really tough circumstance and having them in the locker room. And I think that that's really going to be the key to the defensive rebuild is to have that confidence in players who've been there and done that.
Right. And Staal, up until now, has spent his entire season or his entire career with the New York Rangers, and he's been to the Stanley Cup before, the playoffs and the finals and things like that. So he's got that experience and knows how to handle those stressors. Yeah. But also, even to the guys that have been on the Wings for a long time, it could be a nice culture change.
Yeah,
too.
just kind of a shift in a new face, a new a jump start almost. And I think that'll help a lot there.
Now, coming up, I mean, free agency, the deadline is coming up very soon here. So we have a lot of decisions to make. The club in general, even the Grand Rapids level, I think we still have about 12 more guys that we've got to figure out what to do with.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of contracts to negotiate over the next week or so. So with that, what I would like to see as far as the attention get focused on, especially at the Detroit level, if we're going to be competitive, is maybe trying to acquire a good goaltender in free agency.
I think that's a non-negotiable. Actually, we need to acquire a goaltender.
We have to have someone.
And it's
maybe Ozzy will come out of retirement. All jokes, everybody.
So Markstrom would be great. That would be. He's with Vancouver now, but he is a free agent, so that would be super great. But because Jimmy Howard has all but said he's not coming back,
right?
So that would lead me to believe maybe retirement, retirement,
most likely.
So right now we've got Jonathan Bernier, who was doing really great in the absence of Howard in the last season, as far as great can go, without having a super competitive team in front of him, and having a lot of teams that match up against them that are way better. And that's just the fact of it right now. And they're gonna get better, and they're working on that. But a key to that, I think, would be another goaltender.
Exactly. Yeah, and Markstrom too. Not saying obviously that we know we're going to get him. We would like to get him.
That'd be sweet.
But he spent his entire career with Vancouver too, and he had been said he's reluctant to go. So if they do end up dealing with him, I don't know if it's going to be something where he's super jazzed to be in Detroit. But that young blood, he's still a young guy. He's still in his 20s and everything. So with Bernier having almost that starter position, and I could honestly see even Markstrom being the starter and Bernier being back to the backup. But either way, we need a goaltender goaltender now because our prospects aren't quite there yet.
I don't see our prospects being ready quite yet. Maybe a Euro that we've got in the system, but of course they've got European contracts, and of course if the season doesn't start exactly when it's supposed to and everything's kind of up in the air, they're going to be in Europe. They're going to be playing there right now. So
a lot of them are.
Yeah, so and I think that free agency goaltending is going to be probably the key, and of course we can use one of the picks like we were saying before.
And our cap space.
We've got stuff to work with, which is great, and I think that Steve has been super patient with what he's been working with, and it doesn't ever seem like he's too stressed or like caught off guard. He's like, yes, we made this decision.
I wonder what his trick is.
Yeah, who knows?
Yoga.
Just being the captain. He's just great. So that's probably why. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're thinking about these 3 signings. Let us know in the comments what you think and what you think they're going to add to the team. Let us know if we get a goalie in free agency, who would you want to get? We'd love to read those comments. And thank you so much again for watching. We will see you next time. Bye.